Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Ethan Hollenberger, who is our new Public Affairs Coordinator. And I'd like to have him tell you a few things about himself. He's at 2 minutes, so Dennis, your timer.
I told Don I wasn't going to take 2 minutes. A lot of you I've met through my previous work with Senator Strobel and with Rick's campaign. I'm excited to come to Washington County. When we were in the legislature, we used Josh certainly as a reference for a lot of the work that Senator Strobel and our office did in a lot of the bills. We're excited to move that ball forward, not only with the legislature, but with other members of the community and municipalities. So I live in Milwaukee, so I don't know if I'm coming to Washington County. Josh,
we can fix that.
Telling me to Hartford. Is that a good place?
A politician already.
But yeah, I'm excited. A lot of you, when I was in the legislature, Tim and others have come down to testify, so I'm excited to do that with more of you, to go to Madison and testify and work for the county and our constituents. So my office is right next to Josh's, so come up anytime and chat or yell or whatever you want to do, and we're excited to move everything forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Chris, get your 10. Okay, we'll begin with a moment of silent prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. We have a quorum. We can continue. This is a meeting of the Washington County Board of Supervisors. Prior to this meeting, public notice was given by posting a copy of the agenda in the office of the county clerk and emailing the agenda to the West Bend Daily News, which is the official newspaper. In addition, the agenda was emailed to CNI newspapers, Express News, Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal, WIBD, WNBC Radio, and WTKM Radio. The above action is in conformity with the state of Wisconsin open meeting law. We'll begin with the consent agenda. I'd like to move the combination of Jeffrey Spaeth, Resolution 36, from the consent agenda if there are no objections. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to accept the amended consent agenda. Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Hartwig. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll begin with Jeffrey. We can have you come forward.
We need a motion first.
Oh, need a motion for Resolution 36, 2018-36. So moved, Supervisor Brandt, Supervisor Kist, seconds. Okay. Yep, read it.
Whereas Jeffrey F. Spaeth has contributed more than 18 years of loyal service to the citizens of Washington County, whereas Jeffrey F. Spaeth has chosen to retire from his present position of Patrol Superintendent at the Highway Department, now therefore be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors pause in its deliberations to pay tribute and to commend Jeffrey F. Spaeth for his 18 years of meritorious service. Be it further resolved that on behalf of all citizens of Washington County, this body does herewith extend to him heartfelt thanks for his many accomplishments and successes. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Jeffrey F. Spaeth as a token of appreciation on the part of this board.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for all your work, all your hard effort. It's a small token of our appreciation. And best of wishes for you in your retirement.
Thank you.
Do you have any words? Would you like to say anything?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you. Much appreciated. Okay, moving on to personal appearances, letters, and other communications. I do have a speaker to speak on an agenda item. If there's no objections. Hearing no objections. This for the agenda item for a closed session. Want to come up on? Before you speak, she's also written a letter that I'd like all supervisors to have take a look at. Okay, you're on.
Okay, hi there. My name is Bonnie Johnson. I am the president of the Freeze Lake Advancement Association. I'm here to talk to you briefly about the land acquisition of Wellington Beach property that the county board is looking into adjacent to Glacier Hills Park and combining them together. I'm here to just ask you if you seriously consider how valuable this is to our county. Yes, indeed, it is valuable to us as residents on the lake. We personally will be really diminished if we don't have a boat launch to use. And so we will be landlocked, so that's important to us. We're also concerned about our property values changing dramatically if we don't have access to the lake anymore. But aside from that, I think it's really important to look at what a loss it would be for our county to lose that property if it were to be purchased and taken away from Glacier Hills. Which now has been assumed, people who come to Glacier Hills, that they can use the beach and use that boat launch to fish, enjoy the property. It would really be a loss for a lot of people. There's such a history there. That family has had that beach over 100 years. So my dad came out there to swim and fish when he was a kid. It's valuable. People come from all over the place to use our Freeze Lake. And I call it ours because I do live there. And yes, I do consider it mine. But because of that, we really, in this proposal that we put together, our association, we are a small lake group community. We are putting forth as much money as we can to commit to the project. But we also wanted it to be known what great ambassadors we are for the lake. We're very involved with the Clean Boats, Clean Waters programs, the mud chasing programs, going out and testing waters, being sure the water quality is good, weed education and removal, we're doing a lot of that. So we are looking to work in partnership really with the county and the village to acquire this property and have it be beneficial to all of us. I think it would really improve revenues for the park and help it be self-sustaining because of the amenities it would provide for people coming out there. And if you do not vote yes, then no one can get on the lake and enjoy it as they have been all these years, and I think that would be an awful shame. So I hope you will really consider that it would be such an asset for us to keep it in our community and have that whole western end be Glacier Hills Park.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, and sorry, Supervisor Krebs.
One quick question for the Freeze Lake Advancement Association. How many members do you have? And do you know offhand how many properties are around the lake?
I believe there are over 200 residents on the lake. That would also include Little Freeze Lake. There are a few of them over there as well. Members, I believe we have we're reaching almost 100 now. And then board, not board members.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Also, if there's no objections, I'd like to have consideration to move the closed session in front of the branding exercise results. Entertain a motion for that?
Speak up, please.
I'm sorry. I'd like to move the closed session in front of our next agenda item, the Washington County branding exercise results.
A motion. Second.
Second. Got it. Supervisor Kelling, Supervisor Brandt. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to be going into closed session.
Point of order.
Yeah, we need a motion, yeah.
Yes, I know in the municipal things that we go into, that we have been instructed by our attorney, and I just wanted to grab it. Do you have to, when you go into closed session, do a roll call vote?
Yep,
Yes.
yep. So, entertain a motion to go into closed session. Supervisor Bullowa, Supervisor Mary, second. Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Be by electronic. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, sorry, electronic.
Yeah.
Electronic, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Got it.
Electronically?
Electronically, yes.
No, Scotty said verbally.
It's supposed to be verbal, by name.
Electronically.
Electronic is fine.
Yes.
Everybody's names
Okay, we're hereby in closed session. Do entertain? Motion by Supervisor Brandt, second by Supervisor Mahalik. Any further? Okay. No further discussion? Supervisor Krabs,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the agenda, I cannot find resolution 26. Could you point me?
it's in closed session.
It's the one on the second page. It's in the
It
back.
says closed session, and then it says open session. and-
It should say action on.
Discussed.
So because of, even if they're not listed on the agenda, we'll vote on them? I don't care, I'm just.
Yeah, it's action on those items in the closed session. I went
Right.
back and I looked historically, that's typically how the board has done it.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on this electronically. All those in favor will signify by aye. All those opposed will signify by nay. It is a 2/3 vote.
This is Tuesday. Yep.
Bertram,
Supervisor?
Sorcy.
Supervisor Sorcy, are you voting? Is everybody in? Okay, motion fails. Okay. Back to personal appearance, letters, and other communications. Washington County branding exercise results.
You want to move this to the end?
Oh,
We got so many people here that.
okay, definitely. We will move that to the end if there's no objections. Okay. Consideration upon request reading of resolutions and ordinances, 2018 Resolution 37 grant application, the expanded Fast Forward and WISDOT grant program compute to careers vehicles grant application. Josh, are you gonna speak to that, or?
Everything in the report, I think, speaks for itself, unless you have a question.
I'll make a motion to
Supervisor Bullock, motion, second by Supervisor Schleif. Any further discussion? Ready? All those in favor signify electronically aye. Opposed or nay? Motion passes. 2018 Resolution 38, approved WOW Consortium Agreement and authorize Waukesha County as a fiscal agent of the Workforce Development Board. Motion by Supervisor Bossert, second by Supervisor Dice. You want to have Linda come up? No? Supervisor Martin?
Who was the fiscal agent? It says now Waukesha is going to be, so who was the fiscal agent?
Linda, you want to speak to that?
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Catherman.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm the president of the Waukesha Ozaki Washington Workforce Development Board. The current fiscal agent is a 501c3 nonprofit called Workforce Development, Inc.
Thank you for hanging around.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm trying to call in, but it doesn't work.
Okay. Go ahead.
How much money are we talking about here? What kind of funding will Waukesha be handling? 10,000, 200?
So this is the board's budget that is a federal allocation from the Department of Labor. So the budget itself is not changing. It's just a matter of how the funds are being administered and then allocated out through the RFP process to service providers.
What is the approximate budget?
The approximate allocation to the board is, this year was $1.2 million. That changes from year to year based on the allocation.
Thank you.
Supervisor Martin?
One other question. So as a fiscal agent, do you get a certain amount of the funds budgeted? Or how does the fiscal agent get paid?
Sure, so the federal funding allows for a 10% administrative portion of the grant, and that covers all of the administrative costs for the fiscal agent.
10% of the grant?
Correct, 10% of the allocation.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll vote electronically. Aye is in favor, nay is opposed electronically. Motion passes. 2018 Resolution 39, resolution awarding the sale of $10 million general obligation promissory notes. Motion by Supervisor Krebs, second by Supervisor Kelly. Any discussion?
So we do have Brad here from Bear to give a brief explanation of some of the handouts that you've been given on your table there.
Okay. Thank you. The final resolutions were printed before tonight's meeting and handed out in paper form. And there's also a one-page summary of that resolution. I'll walk through that. The purpose of this award resolution that you're considering is to finalize the interest rates and the terms for the general obligation promissory notes. This is the final step in the borrowing process that was initially approved last month. I'll walk through the summary. By way of description, this is a general obligation promissory note, issue size of $10 million. These funds will be available, will settle with the county on October 1st. And there's principal payments scheduled annually, each March 1st, beginning in 2019 through 23, and then March 1st of 25 through 28. This plan was prepared keeping in mind that the county may issue additional debt several years into the future in 2023. So the repayment structure of this issuance took that into consideration in structuring the long-term debt service plan for the county. Of important note, the plan that the board approved last month has the first eligible call date, that is the first date that this debt can be prepaid, is 2024. That's a pretty early call date for this type of issue, and it gives the county considerable flexibility. $2.115 million of this obligation is callable, meaning it can be prepaid at your option. So it could be prepaid, say, with fund balance that's available, with any other source of funds that the county deems to use, or by issuing additional debt to refinance this obligation. But again, that's completely at your option. The interest rate, 2.76%, and that's based on the AAA rating that was assigned by Moody's Investor Service. Moody's does an independent credit assessment of the county, and in assigning that AAA, they put you at the highest rating category that Moody's assigns. It really puts the county in a very elite group, and it leads to the low interest rates available here. I'd be glad to go into more detail or answer any questions.
Supervisor Martin?
Could you tell me what's the average been on the issues you've been dealing with?
The average interest rates? This is on the low side because of the AAA. You know, last night I was at Chippewa County for a similar transaction. I think their rate was about a 285 or somewhere in that range, and they're a AA1, so that's one notch below where the AAA is. In general, short-term interest rates, in the first, say, 10 years, like this issue, have been increasing over the past year. So, but in a longer-term perspective, if we look, say, at a 20-year history, this is still a low interest rate environment.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on this electronically also.
This is a simple majority vote.
Okay, motion passes. 2018 Resolution 40, Declaration of Emergency Flooding Conditions. Motion, Mr. McCune. Mr. Bassel. Any questions?
As I explained at the executive committee, this is a formal procedure at this point in time to make us eligible for any state or federal grant money or loan money, probably more specifically. So we need your support in order to be able to qualify for that.
Any questions? Supervisor Brandt.
Under fiscal effect, you said there is no direct fiscal impact at this time. Does that mean that there could be in the future?
No, there aren't any county-specific issues. It's primarily aimed towards individual homeowners and local municipalities. So no, there will be no county impact.
Thank you.
Supervisor Martin.
Yeah, I'm still confused on this. So if we apply for this, then people in the county could apply for emergency assistance, is that correct?
So it's a chain of command. The county needs to apply to have the declaration. Formally, County Board Chairman Creefall has already proclaimed a declaration of emergency. Historically, in the past, it was my understanding that we've done it also via resolution. Then the state of Wisconsin, the governor needs to declare an emergency, which he has, and then FEMA makes a determination. So this is the first link in the chain, if you will.
Supervisor Connery.
Yes, didn't the highway department, I guess, keep track of all of the labor and materials used because of what happened with this storm? That there's no physical effect? I mean, there is one there that we would be turning into FEMA or whoever.
If it gets to that point, the county roads, and certainly Highway Commissioner can speak to this in more detail, but the county roads really were not the issue. The primary concern, I would say to you, is in the town of Farmington. But if there were anything that came up, we certainly keep track of those things, and we'd be able to do that.
Supervisor Blanchard.
So this would allow the town of Farmington to apply, so they're not able to apply for any grants without this declaration, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on this electronically. Motion passes. We'll talk about the next meeting date first. It's October 10th, 2018, 6 o'clock p.m. Just a reminder, there'll be a comprehensive plan workshop to follow the meeting. Pizza and salad will be served.
You wanna call a break before we get into this?
What?
You wanna call a break before we get into this?
Yeah, we'll take a 7-minute break. Everybody, we're back in session. Okay, next order of business will be the Washington County branding exercise results.
All right, hopefully everybody has in front of them a copy of the, that which is projected right now, mission, vision, and values. So first of all, for those of you who were able to make it a few weeks ago, and for those of you who made it to the end, thank you very much for your input in making this possible. Appreciate it. I also want to thank a handful of department heads, including a few here today, Ashley Reichert, our County Clerk, and County Sheriff-elect Schulteis, as well as Highway Commissioner Schmidt on helping us to develop the mission, vision, and values, or at least the document that you see here. Their input and feedback was critical in making this a success. Also, thanks to Jamie Ludovic. Jamie did a lot of the work coordinating and making this whole thing happen, and there was a lot of logistics that went into it, as well as Epic Creative, our local partner who did the majority of the wordsmithing to begin with. So the mission, vision, and values are what are in front of you, and we're asking for your endorsement today. Although we don't need a vote, we certainly would appreciate a general consensus from this body. These things are foundational to the leadership and forward-looking vision of the county for the posterity of the county. And so for us, they're guiding documents that help keep staff on track and fulfill the vision of this body so that we can carry it out down from the very highest ranks at the county with my job and constitutional officers all the way down to the frontline employees who do the work every single day serving our citizens. So I won't read through these. I trust that you can read yourself. But I want to just touch on a couple of things that I think are worthwhile mentioning. First of all, in the mission, there was a lot of versions of this, probably 6 or 7 different versions of it. Most recently, within the last couple of weeks, we were down to probably 2 or 3. But I want to highlight the beginning of it because I think it's an important way to start things, and I believe, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe it reflects the sentiment that we heard a couple weeks back and the heartfelt sentiment of the county board in general, that county government is here just to create an environment. We don't create jobs, we don't create business, we don't even create prosperity. We create the environment so that residents and businesses can do that work. And so we felt it was important to start this mission statement off. And remember, a mission statement is the why we do the work we do each and every day, and how it gets done. It's kind of the fuel that fuels the day-to-day operation. And so we believe as staff, we are here to create an environment for residents and businesses to enjoy authentic quality of life. I want to underline that word authentic. It was very important as we went through the process to try and make this a statement that was very unique to Washington County and couldn't be replicated in other places. And so I think the word authentic speaks to that. I won't read the rest, but I will point out to you that the balance of the mission statement also touches on each one of the priority areas, or the result maps, if you will, of the county. So we've integrated the priorities that have been established by the county board into the mission statement itself. And so that's how the back half of the mission statement flows. That we are all well governed as departments and services and programs, and these are the priorities of our county. So I'll just leave it at that in terms of the mission, and if you have questions or comments or feedback, now is the time. Supervisor Bolt.
I love the whole mission statement. I was just wondering if we could simplify the last hyphenated word, the socioeconomic, so that someone who's younger or a teenager could understand what that word means.
Speaking of microphone.
Yeah, so the question was, could we make the term socioeconomic needs a little bit simpler? We struggled with it. We probably could simplify all of that to simply say access to basic needs. I do that quite frequently, just because saying basic physical, behavioral, and socioeconomic is a lot to roll off the tongue. So we certainly could do that. There was some debate as to whether or not we wanted to say access to basic needs at all, but I think it's an important component of who we are. A large portion of what we do at the county revolves around that. So if that's a friendly amendment, if you will, that the board would like to see, that we would pull out physical, behavioral, and socioeconomic, we could certainly do that.
Supervisor Blanchard?
Perhaps it's just me being thick, I'm not sure, but I still don't understand what authentic means in that context.
Yeah, it means whatever you'd like it to mean. And I mean that sincerely. Because authentic, it means it's just us. Nobody else can replicate what the quality of life in Washington County is. We talked about unique, but if you think about the word unique, people can take the word unique really wrong. In the wrong context, the word unique can mean not so nice things. The word authentic is pretty hard to confuse. So it is unique, but when you read the definitions, and we spent time as a group going through and reading definitions and doing etymology, authentic is probably the closest and least able to be confused.
And then I just saw one other grammar issue under quality of life. We created a new word called better for.
Where?
Last line under quality of life, under our business values.
Oh, we'll get to that next.
Okay.
That whole section I'll get to next.
Supervisor Jenkins?
I'm just gonna tease John. You think teenagers are gonna read this?
William, be careful, we've got teenagers in the room.
No, I was just teasing you, sorry. But I mean, and just comment to that, I don't mind that the specificity of, spreading those out, the physical, behavioral, socioeconomic, I'd keep that personally, but just because it just adds more description to the word.
Supervisor Martin?
I agree with John with eliminating those words, because I think if basic needs are basic needs, we don't need to spell it out in that direction. But the second part that I would just like, could you explain to me what an authentic quality of life is? What makes it a quality of life authentic?
It's not replicated. It's not able to be replicated.
I think it also goes to what you view as your quality of life. It's authentic to the person. It's unique. That's the word you don't want to use again, but it's unique to each person, that the authenticity of their quality of life. Just my 2
If
cents.
we can't explain it, we shouldn't put it in there.
It's awkward.
Not as awkward as unique is.
It's uniquely authentic.
Uniquely awkward is redundant, isn't it? We ran into this struggle, and some of the folks who were with me can explain probably better than I can, but yeah, I mean, if you want to change a word, we can try to find a way to change the word authentic.
Supervisor Blanchard?
So I've been through this process before, so I feel your pain. So I don't want you to take any of my comments the wrong way. It's just
not at all
constructive criticism, that's all it is. I'm not criticizing grammar or anything like that. I'm seeing things, and I'd rather it get caught now than later.
Not taking it personal at all. We've already spent about 14 hours, another 2 or 3 won't kill us. We'll take a look at authentic again.
Supervisor Krebs?
I like authentic, and I'm fine with just basic needs. Same.
I agree.
Thank you.
There's 26 of us, we're never going to agree on all the wording in here, so
I just said I'd take a look at it.
Common sense, don't just accept it, there's
Nothing yet.
Common sense isn't common. 36 years. Any other comments on the mission statement?
Good job.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to values then. These are our authentic values. I'm joking. Could you?
Unique.
Yeah, they are unique. So first, I just want to point out a couple of things. The organizational values in the column on the right, all the values are the same. The bolded, all caps words, those are all the same values that we established 5 years ago or 4 years ago. So they're the same. The definitions are the addition, and we thought that was important to make them consistent with the business values and the residential values. The reason that there's 3 different sets or 2.5 different sets is because one thing we heard from you when we had our session was that we respond to stakeholders of a large variety. When the question was asked, who are we speaking to? The answer kind of was, well, everybody. So we tried to make it as inclusive as possible, but also somewhat exclusive by having the 3 different categories. The organizational values speak specifically to how we do our work as county employees. For those of you who've been at any of our functions, whether it's an annual appreciation dinner or any other kind of event like that, we actually reward people for demonstrating these values. The business values and resident values then, you'll notice that we use quality of life and community to cover both of them, because we felt like one of the things that we heard not only a couple weeks ago, but also 4 years ago was that, and 3 years ago, was that we should be talking more about the strategic priorities for the quality of life of citizens of Washington County. It's the first time I've stumbled on that in a while. So we have heard over and over since we first established priorities and these values that quality of life is very, very important to all of you to have in. And so we made that one of the values, both for businesses and residents. And obviously we worked it into the mission as well. Community, I think I don't have to say a whole lot about that. I think the definition does it for itself. And the balance, also I think the safety specifically gives a hat tip to what you all made clear 4 years ago, and that is safety and security are the highest priority for the county. And I think most of our residents would echo that sentiment. Okay, so that's the values. If you have comments or questions or concerns about the definition, anything you don't like, now's your time. And I won't feel bad.
Supervisor Blanchard.
Okay, so now we're at that point.
Yes.
On that last line, that better for, you created that one word, there should be spaces around the hyphen.
Oh, okay.
Because you're setting off a prepositional phrase.
Perfect. Thank you. Prepositional phrase, I'm writing that down.
It's better for all 3.
English major.
Can I just address that?
Please.
So,
Sure.
what, I'm sorry, do I have to call?
No, I got you in.
Okay.
Supervisor Blanchard. Just so I understand. So the way I read this, life is simply better for residents, businesses, and visitors. So you're saying that there should be a space instead of that hyphen?
No, there should be space, hyphen, space. What you've got right now is one word, better.
I got it. Okay. I got it. Thank you.
I think you just removed the hyphen. Supervisor Martin.
Yes, I did sit through the entire process, by the way.
Yes.
As I'm looking at this, I again find under education, our high school systems to our community resources and libraries. What about history? Don't we really value anything with history in our county?
So you're going to see in just a moment, we don't specifically call out history, but in the vision, we tried to capture the commentary about history with the words rich heritage. But, and if you want to put it in education as well, I'm certainly open to that. We actually struggled with whether we should leave libraries in at all because it's so specific. We talked about just doing high-quality school systems to our community resources. Because then community resources can mean everything. Libraries out?
Yeah.
Supervisor Gals.
Thank you. I too participated in a portion of this, and I like what I see here. I think it's a good body of work, and I don't particularly like the wordsmith, so I'm good with all of it. Any other comments on the values?
Supervisor Mary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, since we're picking the fly poop out of the pepper, go back to your second line of the mission, quality of life through a well-governed. I believe well-governed should be hyphenated.
Space hyphen space, right? Is that correct?
Just hyphen, well-governed.
Thank you.
Well-governed quotes, too.
Okay, any more comments, corrections?
All right,
Okay.
nothing else on the values, then I'll end with the vision. This was not the easiest thing in the world to create. There was a lot of comments. The first version, actually the first version of the mission and the vision were really, really long. So we narrowed it down. It was, I think, 4 sentences to begin with. We narrowed it down to 1. And this one I will read because I agree. Washington County strives to cultivate its rich heritage, a vibrant economy, and attractive communities through distinct values that make us who we are. So I'm actually, when we use this, we put it just in black and white for you, just so we can wordsmith it. But when we use this, the plan is to actually start with the vision at the top, because the distinct values will refer naturally then to the values that we've listed, and then end with the mission. As I mentioned, we tried to give a hat tip to the history, not only the history, but well, obviously heritage, the family roots of our county. So we have a strong sense of family here and long lineage, and economic growth and vitality as well, with the vibrant economy. And again, it's not that we create it; it's that we're aspiring to cultivate it. So, yes. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that.
You said you were talking about switching vision and mission around and stuff. What are you planning on using this for then? I wasn't at that planning meeting, so I don't know if it was covered there or not, but then to go along with that, there's a date on there which is very recent, like, depending on the use for it, would we put like our anniversary or something else there?
Sure, good question. So the dates on there, just as a reference, there's probably 5 or 6 of these, just so we knew which version we were working off of. The way that this primarily would be used is in documents such as the budget, our website, any major planning documents would have this type of thing in it. Other than that, primarily is used internally for staff, when we're talking about where we're going and what the future is going to look like for our organization, and motivating internally to help keep staff moving in the same direction. That's where we use this document. Other than that, it's generally used as one of those pages that you get in your budget that you just flip past. That's typically how this document is used. The values, particularly organizational, we have them all over the place in the county. If you go to any of our departments, you'll see Klingons that have the values on. You'll see mouse pads that have them on, all kinds of things that we do with those. And then what we haven't done a great job of is integrating the mission statement or the vision statement throughout the county that same way. And once this is done, we plan to do that. So it'll be largely an internal function, but when we start talking about economic development functions and tourism functions, we hope that some of these components are used, but probably more importantly, the logo and tagline, which will follow this exercise in the coming months.
Supervisor Basil?
Yeah, Josh, when you brought this up originally, I kind of wondered what this is all about. But after looking at this, and I know I've told you that you've got a lot in, you and Joe Fleischman from Drexel have a lot in common. And everything that Drexel delivers, it's all, these guys live by their motto. And I'm well impressed.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
And if you noticed, my weekly updates for the last probably 3 months, I highlight what I'm doing and how it relates to this in everything. And we're trying more and more to integrate that into everything we do. The reason we chose the department heads we chose to be on the focus group, other than the fact that they're fantastic people, is those departments, I really want them to use the values that are organizational and then integrate them into the values for their individual departments. Because everybody operates a little different. We have 19 business units across the county. It doesn't work as smoothly as pulling out these 6 and plopping them into ADRC and then plopping it into the sheriff's department and the highway department. But this is the baseline. And when I talk to employees, this is the language I talk in, and they understand that language. That's the goal. So
I think they take it to their personal life then too.
I do too.
They live and they eat, drink, and sleep this, then, and that's really, in today's technology, it's great.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gals?
Thank you. I'm just going to sort of echo that very comment that dealing with core values and an organization as large as our, 600 plus employees right now?
800.
800. So there we go. As we're going to continue to grow, as the county grows, we need to have a common vision and common core values of all employees, because we're servants, right? And we're serving our constituents. So we all need to be emanating from the same point and providing a level of service. So this helps us dictate what that is.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, the reason it's so important to come here and get it from you is because all of those people need to know that this foundation starts with the county board. And you're, as representatives of the county, of people of the county, not that you're coming down from on high, but you represent the 135,000 plus people that live here. In order for us to know that that foundation is solid, I think that's what you have to start with. So this stuff, like I said, this becomes a common language. Anybody who works here or has worked here will know when somebody says access to basic needs, it rings a bell in your head. Because I use it all the time. I use it in birthday cards, I use it in thank you cards, I use it in weekly updates, I use it in emails. It's everywhere we go. I think any of the department heads here could tell you that and elaborate on it probably.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Good job, Josh. It was a great document.
I think I got the feedback I need unless there's something else that you want to say, speak now for a roll,
I would
please.
move to actually do an electronic vote so that the employees can understand how much impact this.
It's a non,
It's not
Can we what?
we're not, we do a hand vote, non-binding?
Consensus?
Okay. Okay. I believe we have a consensus that the document with a couple little corrections, a couple little fine tuning is a pretty good document to work on. So.
Thank you for your time and your support. We appreciate it.
Okay, seeing that we have conducted all the business, we are adjourned.